Good evening, everybody. These are my favorite kinds of meetings when we have a full house like this with all these great smiling faces. So thank you all for being here. Tonight is a village board meeting for Arlington Heights on January 20th, 2026. And I'd like to call the meeting to order, and if we can all please rise and join the board in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. Maggie, if you could please call the roll.
Trustee Gilbert.
Here.
Trustee LaBedz.
Here.
Trustee Bertucci.
Here.
Trustee Manganaro.
Here.
Trustee Schwingbeck.
Here.
Trustee Dunnington.
Here.
Trustee Santa Maria.
Here.
Trustee Zyck.
Here.
President Tinaglia.
Here. Thank you. We have a full board present, and our first order of business is going to be approval of a couple of sets of minutes. First one is for 12/15/25. Are there any members of the board that wish to recuse themselves or vote or pass on this particular set of minutes? Seeing none, is there someone who'd like to make a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, of the minutes of December 15th, 2025.
Second.
Motion made by trustee LaBedz, seconded by trustee Dunnington. Any additional comments or question? Anyone from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 None opposed? We got all the right people in the room for that. The next one is for 11/17/25. These are closed session minutes. Is there anyone on the board who'd like to pass or recuse themselves from that set of minutes? If not, is there someone who would like to make a motion to approve?
I'll move approval of the November 17th, 2025 closed session minutes.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Manganaro, seconded by trustee Zyck. Any other additional comments? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion carries. All right. Now we're going to move on to accounts payable. We have two sets of warrant register finances to report in on, and I'll call on trustee Bertucci for the warrant register dated 12/30/25.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move approval for the warrant register for check date 12/30/2025 in the amount of $1,514,658.72.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Bertucci, seconded by trustee LaBedz. Are there any questions or comments or thoughts from anyone on the board? Anyone in the audience? If not, Maggie, roll call, please.
Trustee Bertucci.
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz.
Yes.
Trustee Zyck.
Yes.
Trustee Manganaro.
Aye.
Trustee Schwingbeck.
Yes.
Trustee Gilbert.
Yes.
Trustee Santa Maria.
Yes.
Trustee Dunnington.
Yes.
President Tinaglia.
Yes, that motion carries. And then the second one is for the warrant register dated 1/15/26, and again, I'll call on trustee Bertucci.
Mayor, I'll move approval for the warrant register for the check date 1/15/2026 in the amount of $5,461,407.15.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Bertucci, seconded by trustee Schwingbeck. Any additional comments or questions from anyone on the board? Anyone in the audience? Seeing none, roll call again, Maggie, please.
Trustee Bertucci.
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck.
Yes.
Trustee Dunnington.
Yes.
Trustee Santa Maria.
Yes.
Trustee Gilbert.
Yes.
Trustee Manganaro.
Aye.
Trustee LaBedz.
Yes.
Trustee Zyck.
Yes.
President Tinaglia.
Yes, and that motion carries as well. Very good. Okay, so now we're to the point where everybody's here for really a fun opportunity to swear in some newly promoted fire department personnel. And I'll call on Manager Recklouse to get us started.
We have two promotions tonight. We have a promotion to battalion chief and a promotion to lieutenant, and I believe Chief Harris is going to be making introductions. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Before we get started tonight, I want to sincerely thank the mayor, the trustees, and our village manager for continued support of the fire department. That support means a great deal to me, to our members, and especially those being promoted tonight and their families. Taking the time to recognize these accomplishments at a board meeting truly matters, and we are very grateful for your truly ongoing commitment to all of our people, and thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to bring up Matt Murphy. That's good. I just got to find it. All right, we are pleased to announce that firefighter engineer Matt Murphy will be promoted to the position of lieutenant on the gold shift. Lieutenant Murphy began his career with the Arlington Heights Fire Department in October of 2003. Throughout his tenure, Matt has demonstrated exceptional dedication, professionalism, and strong commitment to the continuous improvement of the department. His experience and preparation have been positioned him well to assume the responsibilities of company officer. Lieutenant Murphy has earned numerous certifications that support his leadership role, including Company Fire Officer, Fire Service Instructor 1, Hazardous Materials Technician, Hazardous Materials Incident Commander, Paramedic, Fire Apparatus Engineer, and Fire Incident Safety Officer. In addition, he holds a bachelor's degree in administration from Marquette University and an associate's degree in fire science from Harper. Beyond his operational experience, Matt has made significant contributions to training and professional development within the department and the region. For the past 8 years, he has served as an instructor for the Arlington Heights Fire Department's Fire Apparatus Engineer Program and is the fire department liaison to Northwest Central Dispatch, and also teaches hazardous materials operations and technician courses at Northeastern Illinois Public Safety Training Academy. His commitment to the mentoring and developing others reflects the leadership qualities we value in our officers. Lieutenant Murphy lives in Mount Prospect with his wife, Michelle, and their 3 children, Maddie, Connor, and Paige, who are in attendance tonight. His wife, Michelle, will have the honor of pinning his badge. Please join me in congratulating Lieutenant Matt Murphy on this well-deserved promotion.
Okay, this is a great day, Matt. I'm going to give you this microphone. Actually, what I'll do is I'll hold it for you.
Sounds
okay?
good, okay.
So I'm going to say, if you would please repeat your full name.
Sure.
Ready? I,
Right hand up or not?
right hand up,
Okay. I, Matt Murphy,
having been appointed to the office of lieutenant
having been appointed to the office of lieutenant
in the village of Arlington Heights,
in the village of Arlington Heights,
in the county of Cook,
in the county of Cook,
do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office according to the best of my
of
ability.
the office according to the best of my abilities.
I know you will. Congratulations. Have his family come on up here.
When we're all done, we'll have you take that. Okay. We got paramedics here.
Here, you get to have a little speech.
I do. All right, thank you. Okay. So I'll try to be quick here. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Mary Tinaglia, board members, Chief Harris, Chief Benkert, friends and family, and my brothers and sisters on the Arlington Heights Fire Department. This is one of the great honors of my life. I'm honored to be here. I want to take a quick moment to recognize why we're here. There's been a recent retirement at the Arlington Heights Fire Department. This is an individual who's very good to me, taught me a lot, and served the Department of Village for many, many years. He's a friend of ours. Let's give a round of applause for Dave Roberts. I want to thank my mom and dad for being here. Thank you so much. My brothers, sisters-in-law, extended family, Michelle, Maddie, Connor, Paige. Thanks for having patience with me, even though I'm not the most patient guy all the time. So I'm a little loud in case you can't tell. I walk around, and this is kind of how I am. So sorry. I see a lot of retirees who've come out tonight. I can't tell you how much that means. It is not lost on us that the battles you picked and the work you've done is what's made not just this department, but the whole fire service better. For all the work done by those who have come before me, thank you. It does not go unrecognized. Moving on to my brothers and sisters I get to work with every day. I cannot believe I get to do this job. It's unbelievable. I get to come in here every third day with what is another family. I've made lifelong friends. And when you work 24 hours with people, you get to know them very well, whether you like it or not. So we go on calls together. We work in the elements together. You get to know people very, very well. We manage to laugh every day. And maybe some of that's a coping mechanism, but you know what? It brings us together and we bond very well. We also spend a lot of time in those 24 hours. If there's any quirks anybody has, we're going to pick up on it. Maybe make fun of each other a little bit. So along those lines, think about this. If we can make fun of each other for having a small quirk, what do you think my brothers and sisters have been doing about my voice for the last 22 years? Again, it is an honor. I know I have more work to do and I will get it done. I will work harder to keep on training, keep on improving, seek out help where I have to. And there's a department where people are willing to help. And I am going to do everything I can to be sure that every crew I work with is aggressive, safe, and every shift they can go home to their family. Once again, thank you so much for this incredible opportunity. Thank you.
Smile, Murph.
1, 2, and 3. Perfect. Thank you.
All right, Mark, come on up. Okay, we're pleased to announce that Lieutenant Mark Piscatello has been selected for promotion to the position of Battalion Chief on the Red Shift. Battalion Chief Piscatello joined the Arlington Heights Fire Department as a firefighter in March of 2007 and was promoted to lieutenant in 2021. Throughout his tenure, Mark has consistently demonstrated exceptional leadership, professionalism, and dedication to both the department and the community. He is a state-certified firefighter, a National Registry paramedic with more than 18 years of experience in emergency response, fire suppression, rescue operations, and public safety education. Mark holds numerous professional certifications, including Advanced Fire Officer, Incident Safety Officer, Fire Apparatus Engineer, and Hazardous Material Operations, along with a completion of multiple leadership and command-level courses. He also holds a Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice with a minor in Sociology from Carthage College, an associate's degree in the fire service from College of DuPage. In addition to his operational experience, Mark has made significant contributions to the department through his leadership of the PPE and Turnout Gear Committee and his service on the Pre-Employment Background Investigation Team. Battalion Chief Piscatello resides in Chicago with his girlfriend Natalie, who also have the honor of pinning his badge. Please join me in congratulating Battalion Chief Mark Piscatello on this well-deserved promotion and wishing him continued success in his new assignment. Congratulations.
All right, Mark, are you ready?
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, so repeat your name after me.
I, Mark Piscatello,
Having been appointed to the office of Battalion Chief
having been appointed to the office of Battalion Chief
in the village of Arlington Heights
in the village of Arlington
in
Heights
the county of Cook,
in the county of Cook,
do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office according to the best of my ability.
of the office according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you very
I know
much.
will.
Mayor, thank you very much for this opportunity, and the board, thank you. I truly appreciate this opportunity. It's an opportunity of a lifetime for me. It's something that I've dreamed of being a firefighter when I was a little kid, and getting to this rank is truly an honor and a blessing, especially to work in this town. The village of Arlington Heights is a great community. Some other people I'd like to thank, Village Manager Randy Reckless. Thank you for the opportunity. Fire Chief Lance Harris, Deputy Chief Andy Benkert. Again, thank you for this opportunity. I look forward to getting to work and the new challenges ahead of me. Congratulations to Matt Murphy, very well deserved. Thanks for the hard work. I want to mention my mom, who's in the audience today. Thank you very much for all the support over the years, pushing me to do this, something I wanted to do as a young child, and thank you. I wouldn't be standing here today without you. My brothers, Michael and Dominic, their families are here. My nieces and nephews, there's Brookie Cookie on the ground. Is that Brooke? Yeah. My aunt and uncle, John and Lori, my cousin Ashley, and my brothers, my sister-in-law Angela. Thank you very much. Natalie, thank you so much for being the voice of reasoning with me, listening to me, calming me down at times, and there's always being there to support me. Something that Matt mentioned about a lot of people came before us that paved the way here and sacrificed for this village and this department and made it a way better place, not only for us working here, but for the residents of this town. And these people have made a lasting impact on me. So I want to thank the Joe Clarks, the Bill Kidds, the Ron Frater, the Dave Lemaire's, a friend of ours, John Carpenter right back there. Thank you very much. Another one, John Simon. Thank you. Drew, Marty Moran, the members of Local 3105, from the bottom of my heart. It's been an honor. Thank you for all the work you guys have done, and please continue to do the great work you guys do. Thank you.
Come back up. We'll take a quick picture.
Ready? 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. 1 second. 1, 2. Oops. Hold on a second. One more. Up. 1, 2, and 3. Thank you.
Again, right there, you sign. You want me to sign actually? Or no?
Yeah.
Well, as many of you folks in the room know, we have one more detail to take care of regarding 3105, so please don't leave yet. Citizens to be heard is next on the agenda, and I have one blue card here. 2 blue cards, excuse me. And the first one is Norbert Petrowski. And Norbert, come up and take the podium. Our little rule here is to try to keep it under 3 minutes if we can.
Okay, all right.
And the floor is yours.
All right, my name is Norbert Piotrowski, and I live at 211 North Dwyer Avenue in Arlington Heights, Illinois. I thank the mayor, board of trustees, and the staff of Arlington Heights for the opportunity to speak on this issue tonight. And the issue is Chicago Bears Stadium in Arlington Heights. And here's a copy of the email message that I sent out to the mayor, the board of trustees, and the staff of Arlington Heights, and it included a copy to Governor Pritzker, Kevin Warren, president and CEO of the Chicago Bears, and John Lampington, editor of the Daily Herald. I have followed this story since it started. My feelings is the Chicago Bears' $5 billion mega stadium is overall a very bad idea for Arlington Heights. I live 1 mile from the site. The traffic at Euclid Avenue and Highway 53 would be a nightmare on game days. The increase in auto congestion, pollution, noise, and cars cutting through side streets would make Arlington Heights a bad place to live. The crime would go up, the environment and local businesses would suffer, and we, the people of Arlington Heights, would be left holding the bill later with increased taxes, as many other cities in the U.S. have found. Illinois Governor Pritzker said he will not use state funding on the extra $850 million infrastructure cost for a private company. Illinois has the worst rating at the bottom of financial health for all U.S. states. We need a reevaluation of this boondoggle project before the village is suckered into this project. I think the Chicago Bears relocating to Northwest Indiana, or Gary, would be a blessing in disguise to Arlington Heights residents. Since all these mega stadiums have failed across the United States, what makes you think this project would be different? What kind of due diligence did you guys do on this project? All you had to do was ask ChatGPT to find out the true facts. The artificial intelligent truth shall set us free. And there's a whole printout that came, if you go into that on ChatGPT, and it tells all the reasons about previous cities that had this and had bad experiences with these mega projects. And now this is the thing I'm saying tonight. The AI results are non-biased and look at the actual facts compared to similar mega stadiums across the U.S. Most projects fail. The facts are the facts about similar mega stadium projects. Consulting groups cannot match the wide-ranging depth of knowledge available to AI to look at and provide unbiased, complex facts and solutions investigated across the entire U.S. They went across the whole country and looked at this thing. It's really detailed and long in what they find out.
Norbert?
I thank the mayor and the board for allowing me to speak tonight.
Okay. Thank you very much, Norbert, for keeping that timely. Appreciate it. The world's a wonderful place. This room is a wonderful place. Everybody has their own opinions, and they're free to share them. So thank you for stepping up and doing that. Next, and the only other card I have is Henry Beardsley. Henry, are you in the room? Come on up.
Mayor Talia, trustees. At the December 8th meeting of the Committee of the Whole, I asked the board to have a study performed on the effects of legalizing video gambling in Arlington Heights on our residential property values. At the last meeting, I asked to have a study on the effects to our economy. Tonight, I'm asking the board to have a study done on the impact to the health of our neighbors from legalizing video gambling terminals, also known as VGTs. The task force rightly reached out to the Arlington Heights Health and Human Services Department. While the HHS report is chilling in the effects of adding VGT gambling to our village, the task force pros and cons list merely added a single point saying, quote, "The cost of addiction is costly," end quote. This self-affirming line is completely inadequate to summarize the HHS report, which opens with a disclaimer stating the cost factors of treating and preventing gambling addiction are high, so much so that they are actually outside the scope of their report. Digging deeper in the report, the following fact contradicts those voices, stating that legalizing VGTs does not increase the chance of addiction because they say individuals in Arlington Heights can already gamble on their phones. However, the fact as stated in the report, quote, "Access and density of gambling options drive addiction," end quote. Science says that when we add VGTs, we increase the gambling options and density, thus creating new gambling addicts and also increasing the severity of those already addicted. Additionally, the report goes on to say that VGTs are inherently different from other methods of gambling. Comparisons to gambling on the phone are disingenuous due to the fact that, quote, "Algorithm-driven machines so adept at making people play faster and longer, they have earned nicknames like electronic morphine and the crack cocaine of gambling," end quote. The most important factor of the HHS memo is in the closing, quote, "For the communities that do allow it, It would be helpful to look at density, zoning, and cost-benefit ratios as part of the decision-making process," end quote. Our HHS paints a decidedly dark picture and asks for more study. Beyond the HHS memo, we need the study to give us some insight on the effects to our young people and our elderly. What happens to children when we have clearly visible gambling terminals and Garibaldi's and Chuck E. Cheese? And what will the effects be to our elderly when gambling terminals go into Luther Village and the Moorings? All 4 of these establishments have on-premise liquor license and would presumably be eligible to apply for a gambling license. And don't think that I'm sensationalizing this. It is a fact that the Hoffman Estates Garibaldi has gambling terminals, which by law have to be visible, which means also visible to the children. It doesn't take too much amateur investigation to find several studies that show troubling correlations of youth exposed to gambling and troubled behavior later in life. It's also not hard to find studies on the effects of gambling on the elderly, many of whom are on a fixed income. Some on the board may feel that this issue is not about gambling, but instead about giving every ounce of help to our resilient businesses. While yes, we do need to help them, but not like this. And more importantly, we need to not hurt our residents. Gambling addiction is a scientific fact. It is a problem. Let's not trivialize it and victim blame with statements that addicts should simply choose to not gamble. And until you can provide a study that concludes otherwise, let's all acknowledge the scientific fact that passing gambling in our village will create new addicts and make the problems of the current problem gamblers even worse. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry. Just so for everybody's knowledge, it has not been passed. We do not have it yet. It's something that will be getting discussed again before too long, but there'll be a number of restraints and a number of rules put together for that so that I would find it very hard to believe that in Arlington Heights we'll have a VGT in a Garibaldi's, but that's just my opinion. That's it for the citizens to be heard. Unless there's someone else in the audience that did not fill out a card, you're welcome to come up. If not, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. And the consent agenda has items A through L in it. These will all be voted on with one vote unless there's any trustee who'd like to vote no or pass on the consent agenda item. Is there any trustee who would like to remove an item from the consent agenda to be voted on separately? Is there anyone from the audience that would like one of the trustees to remove an item from the consent agenda to be discussed? Seeing none so far, what I'd be looking for now is a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mayor, I'll move approval of the consent agenda with an emphasis on item J, the agreement between the Village of Arlington Heights and the Arlington Heights Firefighters Association, Local 3105.
Second. Motion made by trustee Bertucci, seconded by trustee Schwingbeck. Any additional conversation, comments? If not, roll call vote. Maggie, please.
Trustee Bertucci?
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck?
Yes.
Trustee Gilbert?
Yes.
Trustee Manganaro?
Aye.
Trustee Dunnington?
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz?
Yes.
Trustee Zyck?
Yes.
Trustee Santa Maria?
Yes.
President Tinaglia?
Yes. And that was a great emphasis to make, trustee Bertucci. Is the executive board here from the 3105? Is everyone from the board here? If so, could you guys all come up? And I'm going to call our trustees down. I'd love for a little recognition for that board for the great work that they've done here. Melissa, Randy, let's take a quick photo together.
Randy.
I know that this goes without saying, but when you have a program like this in your town and people get together and work out details and make things happen like the fire department put together here with our staff members to make this contract go, as smoothly and as well as it had. I think we can all just agree that we're just blessed to have each other. So thank you to all of you. Drew, is there anything you want to say?
You know me, I can never resist a microphone. Thank you very much, Mayor Tinaglia, Village Board. It goes without saying, thank you very much to the community. Everything that we have and what we can provide for our families never happens without the community that we serve. So thank you very much. I think we are very, very fortunate to be standing on shoulders of giants. Our negotiation process is an interest-based negotiation process that was actually started by President Bill Kidd, who is sitting in the room, and Council Robin Ward from the village. And that process has stood up the test of time through different leadership changes. And what that represents to the citizen in Arlington Heights is a large cost savings and a huge positive working relationship between labor and management. And it really is the foundation of how we operate, and we couldn't be more blessed to serve this wonderful community. So thank you very much for your vote of confidence.
Let's give these guys a great round.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, great. Thank you. A wonderful celebration. Thank you.
I know many of you are going out to celebrate. Please be safe, stay warm. And while people are exiting, the next item on the agenda is our new business.
That's pretty big.
And that is the Arbor House at 25 East Algonquin Road, and that's a sign variation. Is the petitioner present? If you guys want to come on up. Welcome. Some very familiar faces in your team.
Good evening.
Is this the first time we're seeing Mr. Perkins on this side of the desk here?
First time back in the room. Good to see everybody. Charles Witherington Perkins, Playing Great Cities LLC.
Brian Carley with Bradford Allen.
I'm Adrian Benet with Thomas Rozak Architecture.
Well, fabulous, guys. Great to see you all. Would you like to walk through it first, or do you want us to have staff walk through it first? Randy, what's your pleasure?
Usually the petitioner would do initial comments.
Charles, I think you know the drill. Go for it.
Okay. Well, good evening, everybody. It's great to be back here with the sign package for the Gateway Arbor House development. The developer is requesting sign variations, and they're requesting 5 ground signs when 2 ground signs are permitted, and they're requesting 4 wall signs when 2 wall signs are permitted. And they're requesting 2 off-premise signs for the medical office building, formerly the Daily Herald site. Talking about those 5 signs, they're small, they're modest in nature. They range from 6 to 8 feet in height. Code allows a 16.5-foot tall ground sign. So the code allowed signable area for the property would be 292 square feet. With the 5 signs, it would be 267 square feet, so about 10% less in signable area, even though there are more signs. They're modest, they're spread around the property, and I'll talk about the hardship in a moment. The same with the wall signs. 2 of the wall signs it could be on larger facades, but because of the deviation in the facade, the signable area is a bit smaller. So the 2 allowed wall signs could be 194 square feet. The request is for 4 wall signs on 2 of the corners for a total of 84 square feet, so less than half what could be allowed. It's trying to be kind of tasteful and modest. The hardship criteria. There's 5 hardship criteria in the code. That was talked about quite a bit at the Design Commission. The property is very unusual. It's a large development, 300 units, 30 affordable units. That's the most affordable units built in a private development in Arlington Heights to date. And 26,000 square feet of commercial space. That's the most commercial space built in this corridor since Mitsua was built in around 1991. So it's a big investment. Normally, if you'd have commercial and residential separately, you'd have a significant amount of signage. So the property sits on Algonquin Road, which is at an angle. The only way to access the site on Arlington Heights Road is from northbound coming from the south because of the medians that prevent full access on Arlington Heights Road. The same on Algonquin Road. The center driveway is restricted to right in and right out only, so you can only enter the site from the east. So the only full access to the property is from Tony Road, which is the signalized intersection, and even then it's on to the private Tony Road before you get to the private west-east road to access the site. So there are 3 ground signs that are proposed for multi-tenants for the commercial and also for the off-premise signs, one at Arlington Heights Road and one at Tony Road, and that's for the medical office building. The village did approve an off-premise sign for that office building when it was first built in the early 1980s. It was formerly the Daily Herald, has no access, no visibility to Algonquin Road. The wall signs, the thought process behind the 4 wall signs, 2 on each corner, the southwest corner and the northwest corner, is to kind of a play on Arlington Heights and Arbor House. So it's a simple AH. Each sign is 21 square feet each, so they're small. They'd be illuminated at night. They'd be visible from the tollway coming from the west in Rolling Meadows and from traveling south on Arlington Heights Road. So the intent was not to have a large sign like you might see in that corridor for, say, the Doubletree or some of the other buildings, but to be very subtle on the top of the building. And then the last 2 signs are at the corner of Arlington Heights Road and Algonquin Road. They're about 6 feet in height, single-sided sign that says Arbor House, so anybody coming to that corner will recognize that that's the residential component of the development. Brian Carley, executive with Bradford Allen, is here, can add more to it, and Adrian did a fantastic job on the design of the signs. He can explain and talk about any of the details, but we'd be happy to answer questions, and I know Emily will get more into the specifics and has some visuals as well.
Okay, thanks, Charles.
Thank you.
All right, well, not surprisingly, Mr. Perkins did an excellent job summarizing the request. So I will move through the presentation quickly, but we are here, of course, for the Arbor House sign variations at 25 East Algonquin Road. As Mr. Perkins indicated, they are requesting 5 variations. So for additional ground signs, 5 ground signs where normally only 2 would be allowed, 1 sign per street frontage, and then an additional 4 wall signs where only 2 are allowed per street frontage, and then, of course, approval for that off-premise signage for the Arlington Med building, as he mentioned. This is the site location. I think you're all familiar with this site at the corner of Arlington Heights Road and Algonquin Road. And then this is an image of the site plan. The proposed ground signs are shown in circles on the site, so you can see the 2 that are at the corner of Algonquin and Arlington Heights Road, and then the one that's on Tunney Road, and then the one that's interior to the site. And the rectangles on that picture indicate where the wall signs will be located. The building does have some tiered structure to it, so it's a little hard to see those wall signs using this particular depiction, but you'll get a better sense of that later in the presentation. These are just some enlarged signs so you can get a sense of, enlarged diagrams so you can get a sense of where the signs will be located on the site. So ground signs 4 and 5 are one-sided signs that will be located at that intersection, and then the other 3 proposed signs are dual-sided signs. Those are the multi-tenant signs as well, and those would contain the panel for Arlington Med. Wanted to spend a few minutes talking about one of the particular challenges related to this development, and this is for the proposed sign at Tunney Road and Algonquin. So as the development was initially approved, it did anticipate that the property owners would receive approval to revise an existing easement that is in place. So the proposed sign right now is located technically not on property that they own, and requires approval from the adjacent property owner, the Lincoln Atrium Condominium Association. So they have been attempting to work with that association to obtain a revised easement that would allow them to install this sign in the preferred location, the approved location, as well as the obelisk that you see that kind of looks like a Mercedes sign right there on the plan. To date, they have not been successful in obtaining that approval. So if you look at the diagram on, I guess it's my left, it should be your left as well on your screens, that is where they are hoping to install the sign if they're able to obtain that approval. The initial PUD approval also anticipated that there may be a need to widen Tunney Road down with a future phase of development, depending on what those future phases look like. So that middle diagram indicates where the sign would be located in relation to that future widening. And staff did look at that where it was initially proposed. If Tunney Road were going to be widened, it would have been a little too close to the curb for our comfort. So we did work with the petitioner and asked them to adjust the location of that sign. And we are satisfied with the way that sign is proposed should that roadway be widened. And then the final diagram you see here was requested by staff as well as the Design Commission as part of their recommendation, and that is depicting a alternate sign location should this easement never be obtained. It is our understanding that the petitioner is still hopeful that they can obtain the easement that they originally proposed to, but should that not happen in the future, they have provided this diagram to indicate where they would install the sign so that it is solely on their property. This is a view of those wall signs in the evening, just to give you a sense from street level how they'll be illuminated, and an indication of the size of the sign, which is, as Mr. Perkins indicated, pretty moderate given the size of the building. This gives you a view of the multi-tenant sign that you can see in front of the space that's just labeled bistro right now. And then some additional views of the not the multi-tenant signs, the ground signs. Those are number 4 and 5 there on the corner, as well as those wall signs. And then lastly, this is a view of the sign from I-90. And so you can see that it's actually quite challenging to see in this particular image. So it is not a sign that is going to overwhelm the building. It is very tastefully done in terms of the size and the scale. So in terms of the Design Commission recommendation, the Design Commission did discuss this proposal at length. They did express interest in seeing additional details for how the wall signs would be mounted, and so that is a condition of their recommendation for approval, that staff evaluate those details once they become available. An additional condition is a requirement to resolve the sign easement issue with the Lincoln Atrium Condominium Association, or to install the sign in an alternate location. So that third condition is grayed out because they have already met that condition. As you saw, they've already provided us an alternate location for the ground sign. And then lastly, the Design Commission recommended lighting those Arbor House signs, so the 2 that were located at the corner, signs 4 and 5, with an acceptable method of illumination, which would be reviewed by staff. So thus, the motion that's before the board this evening is to direct staff and the village attorney to prepare final documents granting the requested sign variation relief as set forth in the agenda materials for tonight's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rodman, and thank you, team, for a great presentation. At this point, before we go any further, I'm going to ask the board if anyone on the board has any questions that the petitioner could follow up on. So we'll start on my left this time. Anyone over here who has any questions for the petitioner? Trustee Zyck?
Real quick, thank you, Mayor. Overall, I think it looks good. It is tasteful, and I don't think when I first started reading it, I was kind of like, oh, is this going to overwhelm a little bit? But if I remember correctly, there was a comment in there about the construction. They were concerned about how it actually looked from the side compared to one of the sides. I think it was the ones on the corner of Algonquin and Arlington Heights Road. Am I getting that correct? Yes.
The ones that are up on high on the corner, like the construction of those? Is that
Yeah, how they were going to look, and if there was talk about actually putting something together to show staff exactly what it was going to look like.
Yeah, the concern from Design Commission was the structure holding up the AH signs would potentially block the light coming out off the signs. These were originally thought as backlit signs. The structure on the two sides that we had planned would potentially block that. So we're looking at alternates with the signage manufacturer to have these front lit signs so that they wouldn't block this, the structure would not block the light coming off of these. So that's something that we're working with. We're going to have some details probably later this week to review, and then those will be coming in for further review.
Okay. And so the AH is being, in the pictures that I saw, it looks like they're above windows of a unit up there. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Is that going to shine in those windows? Is that a concern?
Especially not now that the light would be outboard. So no, I don't think that's a concern at all. The light the signs are about 10 inches away from the facade, shining out. So they can't make it through those windows.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
And every apartment has really nice roll shades.
You want to step up to that mic while you're speaking,
Sorry.
sir?
So, and of course, every apartment has really nice roll shades, so you could also.
Okay. Anyone else on this side? Trustee LaBedz.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation, and thank you, Charles, for explaining it and talking a little bit about the wall sign and the point behind it. But I'm not particularly fond of the wall signs, to be perfectly honest. It seems to me that, especially when you see the picture that you showed of how you really wouldn't see it from the road, if that was part of the point. It's tasteful, but I'm not sure personally that it's necessary. I mean, that's kind of how I am looking at this. I guess I'd like to hear more about why you want to, because it's obvious that it's a big apartment building, and it doesn't really identify it as a big apartment building, and it doesn't really, I mean, you're not going to really be from the ground looking up to see these signs. So convince me more about why this should be.
Well, I think, I mean, we discussed it a lot. We thought it was an opportunity to celebrate Arlington Heights and Arbor House. The name, the AH, was a little cheeky, but also, you know, branding. We're really trying to create a new place here and draw the eye skyward. I mean, tonight I was checking it out. I mean, it is such a big building, and obviously that's part of the problem with the signs. We have pretty much 4 acres here, and this building winds across all 4 acres. And so just having some, you know, a lit element at the corners we thought really kind of set off an otherwise you know, just sort of smooth capping element to the entire structure. And along with the obelisks, we thought it was a nice opportunity to just do a little stamp on there. Like you said, it's not huge. You're not going to be seeing it driving 80 miles an hour down the Jane Addams, but it does, you know, just a little, like the star on top of your Christmas tree. You know, it's just a little cap.
A little something.
A little something.
A little something. Okay. I'm fine with the ground signs. I can understand the reasoning for having the signs and the number of signs, and I appreciate seeing what the alternate sign may have to be if you can't get approval from the condominium association next door. So that is, I couldn't really tell from the picture, but I take it that is set back enough, you know, from the road. Is it, or is that,
yeah, I mean,
is there a variation for that part of it too?
I mean, if there's going to be, if the
I'm
road's
sorry to
going be
interrupt. Mr. Cully, do you mind using the microphone just so we can
I'm
capture
sorry.
it? Thanks.
Is this one on? Test, check. All right. I guess
It's just hard to tell from the picture
well,
how.
I think the thinking behind the potential widening of the road would be an extreme circumstance. And when that was explored, it was the site containing multiple apartment buildings and a hotel. I think in that particular scenario, we had even we're looking at demolishing the Daily Herald and doing a hotel there. So it's a lot of traffic. So the potentiality of this occurring is relatively remote. But as far as, you know, the setback for the sign in that scenario, staff felt comfortable with it. So, you know,
So, but the setback for the alternate sign location is sufficient, correct, Ms. Robnin? It's just hard to tell from the picture.
The proposed location does not meet our code in terms of the minimum required distance between signs, which is 800 feet,
Right.
but that is part of the variation that they're requesting. So initially, they had requested a variation, I believe it was 306 feet under that initial plan. If they're not able to obtain the easement, that sign obviously has to move a little bit closer to the other sign that's proposed, which is why you see that revised number of 283. So the variation is being designed sort of for worst case scenario. So it doesn't meet the code in that regard, but otherwise it would meet the code in terms of size, you know, site triangle, landscaping, all of those other requirements.
Okay, thank you. That was what I was asking
well,
about.
it's an interesting circumstance here we have with the easement and trying to work with the condo association. So
Understood. Well, it's the whole project is coming along beautifully. I keep getting asked, well, when are people going to move in?
well, I could tell you if you'd like. We're going to be starting leasing next Monday, and hopefully move-ins mid-April.
Great, great. There's a lot of excitement about the project, so
I mean,
thank you very much.
Got the place is all furnished, and I mean, if any of you guys are interested, we'll be doing tours starting Monday. Happy to get you in there even sooner if you're at all curious.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else down here?
I will definitely take you up on the tour.
Yes.
And I have to say, the project as it's progressed has really grown on me. I happen to like the signs. I appreciate the point that Trustee LaBedz makes, but you can call it a little bit cheeky. I did like the tie to Arlington Heights and Arbor House. And I am very happy to have this going in on the gateway. So, you know, like I said, I'll be in touch. I'll take you up on the tour.
Okay, please do.
I think it looks great. It's awesome. Good job, guys.
Thank you.
That's all I got.
A question for staff really quick before we move on to this side is, I know there are examples of mid-rise buildings that are office buildings, commercial buildings that have signage up on them for the company name and so on. We see that in a fairly regular way. While we carry on over here, can anybody do any quick looking? Are there other apartment residential buildings in town here that have a similar signage program up high like that? And I'll just leave you with that while you think about it.
Mayor, I could answer that question if you'd
I
like.
didn't ask you, Charles.
He
You'll
is
get
best
your
poised to
chance
answer.
when I call on you, all right? Trustee Bertucci.
I thought I was reading conflicting. I'd like to get clarification on what the staff is recommending, because I thought I saw some things that the staff was recommending denial of a few things. So what are you guys recommending from a staff side? And then also clarify what the design commission is recommending.
So staff initially recommended denial of the two monument signs that are located at the corner of the building, so the single-faced signs. We just felt that for a singular development, it's a large development, but it's still a singular development, that 5 ground signs was unnecessary. We didn't feel that the ground signs located at the corner added a lot of benefit. So our initial recommendation to the Design Commission was to deny those 2 signs. We also recommended they evaluate the 4 wall signs. We didn't feel that the 4 wall signs were necessary, and asked the Design Commission to consider whether or not the AH as signage was sufficient, as we thought that might be a little bit confusing since it doesn't necessarily say the name of the development. all of that being said, the Design Commission did recommend approval of the signage package generally as proposed, just with these, let me get back to the conditions. So these were the Design Commission, this was the Design Commission's recommendation. It was unanimous. So their recommendation was for approval of the sign variations as requested. However, they wanted additional mounting details for the signage to be provided, just to clarify the lighting issue. And so the direction is for them to submit that to staff, and staff would evaluate that. They also are looking for Bradford Allen to try to resolve that easement issue with the adjacent Lincoln Atrium Condominium Association, if that's possible, and if they're able to do that, to provide the village with the appropriate documentation that indicates they've done so. If they are not able to do that, the Design Commission wanted to make sure that they submitted an alternative plan for where they would install the sign, which you have seen this evening, so they've already met that requirement, and staff is satisfied with that proposed plan. And then this last condition that the Design Commission included is a requirement to backlight those two ground signs at the corner to improve the visibility. So that was the Design Commission's recommendation. Because that third condition has already been satisfied, that cover memo that's with the board packet only includes conditions 1, 2, and 4 for the ultimate approval of this proposal, should the board be so inclined.
Okay, so then I'm going to circle back to my original question then, is what is staff changed their recommendation, or is staff still recommending not to accept the round signs?
Our initial recommendation was that we didn't feel those were necessary. We were satisfied with the explanation that they provided to the Design Commission and with the Design Commission's recommendation. You have seen on occasion where staff has come forward and said, we still disagree with a particular commission's recommendation, but in this case, we're satisfied with the explanations they provided. So we're supportive of the Design Commission's recommendation.
Okay. In the future, maybe what we can do is get that updated in our packet so that we know where, at the end of the day, where the staff recommendation is.
We'd be happy to add
So-
that to the cover memos going forward.
Yes, thank you. I'm fine with the package as is. I just wanted to see if I was missing something there. Randy, did you have?
No, I didn't want to interrupt your point. I was just trying to get the mayor's attention. I did have a answer to his earlier question.
Come back to it.
Yeah.
Come back to it.
So, and I'm gonna challenge my associate trustee, Trustee LaBedz. Wouldn't that be a great place to take a picture, Robin? Just like DTA downtown, the AA, right?
I don't think I could get up there that high on the outside.
You could do a picture, So everybody gave me a hard time about not really liking the DTA thing, and so I'm gonna, but I mean, I'm fine with it. I almost like the interaction of the AH being able to either be Arbor House or Arlington Heights, so thank you.
Trustee Dunnington?
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you again for your large investment with this project. I was in agreement with staff's original recommendation about the ground signs. I do feel like 5 seems excessive for this property. Definitely the 3 multi-tenant signs seem very appropriate, and the top of those do say Arbor House. So on Algonquin Road, that means there 3 different signs would say Arbor House, the Arbor House plus the multi-tenant. So in my opinion, I think that's excessive. I would just go with the 2 multi-tenant, and then on Arlington Heights Road, either just the multi-tenant or maybe 1 Arbor House sign. But I definitely think the 2 on Algonquin and Arlington Heights seems excessive. I don't think that we should go with 5. And then insofar as the Arlington Heights on the top of the building, I do think it's modest. However, again, I think 4 seems excessive. Maybe 2 would be appropriate, and I would love to see maybe a logo or maybe like art instead of AH. My concern with AH is that I think that people could interpret it as a municipal building, because it looks like Arlington Heights. I don't think a lot of people are going to know Arbor House for quite some time. So I would like to, I think it is kind of neat to see something that high, but I think it should be something different. I don't know if you have a
Alternates?
logo
No.
or a different.
I mean, we haven't played with any alternates, and I mean, as far as like the iconography and logos, you don't have anything specific developed. Obviously, we have a very specific language and color scheme and fonts and all that, but not like a, you know, like a singular logo.
I know originally there was talk about like leaves because it's kind of a sustainability.
Yeah, and that's featured in some of the things like the boards that are by each entry to the building. There's some.
We include green fins on the building, on the facade, so that's kind of part of the scheme of the building. But there's already some on those facades that have the AH, the proposed.
I'm going to ask you, as you speak, just if you could just each step up to that center mic there, because the little mic's not picking up very well. But when you next time when you speak, just step up there. Thank you. Anything else?
I do think the off-premise signs make a lot of sense to get people back to the Arlington Med. But again, I think 5 signs is too many, and the AH could be improved, and 4 seems too many. Thanks.
Trustee Schwingbeck or Trustee Santa Maria?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm supportive of the signs. I too don't get the AH. I like when we drive around different communities and you see the name of the building on there, Arbor House. So I really don't think it's necessary, but unless the board was really against it, I'm fine with it. I'd be happy to put a motion on the floor.
You're welcome to.
I would move to direct staff and the village attorney to prepare final documentation granting the requested sign variation relief. All is set forth in the agenda materials for tonight's board meeting.
Second.
Second.
Okay, so motion is made by Trustee Schwingbeck, seconded by Trustee Santa Maria. Were there other commentary? None? Okay. I did have a couple of quick questions just to discuss the 2 signs at the corner. I think, Charles, you kind of alluded to the fact that if it was 1 sign at the corner, it could be quite a bit taller and quite a bit larger than the 2. Could you briefly share the math between the 2 signs versus what could be approved with 1 sign per code or per the ordinance?
Yes, Mayor. So the signs 4 and 5, they're single-sided signs, 34 square feet each. And I think those are 6 feet in height. The code would allow a 16.5-foot tall sign, and on Arlington Heights Road, it could be 60 square feet double-sided. And then on Algonquin Road, there could be a second 16.5-foot tall sign, 80 square feet double-sided. So a lot of these signs are single-sided, so that's why the total square footage is less.
Okay, so that I guess the point there is you tried to stay under the allowable maximum, even though you are putting them in more places.
Correct, and given the angle of the street with Algonquin, it's difficult to have a double-sided sign that would be visible because of the different angles of the street, and that was the reason to do 2 single-sided instead of 1 double-sided.
Right. Okay. Thank you. So I have two thoughts based on everything. I don't dislike the project or the sign package at all. I'm worried about setting precedent in 2 ways. So to answer the first one, I'll go back to staff. Manager Reckhouse, you had a couple of thoughts on where these are examples
We
already?
do have, the one Arlington building and the Peyton Place that are on the corner of Stonegate and Euclid, both do have signage at the very top of the building indicating, the name of the complex.
Okay, and those were fairly recently approved?
Yes.
Anything else? Anything closer to the downtown area or anything like that?
At the top of my head, I couldn't think of it. I did a quick search, but again, I don't know if the petitioner and their consultant with his research have
He might.
any other answers.
Okay, Charles, your turn.
Thank you, and I sorry earlier, didn't mean to interrupt anybody.
No, I'm just playing with you. I'm just teasing.
So this property is Zone B2, which is unique in that a lot of other residential buildings are zoned R7 or R6. So in a B2 business district, you are allowed a wall sign on the top of the building if it's a multi-tenant building. If it's a single occupant building, it would not be allowed a wall sign at the top of the building. So it's a little unique. And that specific provision for top of building wall signs is prohibited in the downtown.
Got it. All right, thank you. So then the other piece to this in my mind about setting precedent is about having two signs at the corner, two wall signs. And I'm thinking back on a project that we just had in front of us a year ago, and that was for the Arlington Heights Park District over at the Arc. And I think the design commission and that petitioner went round and round about a corner sign. And instead of one type that they wanted, there was a different type that was approved, and it had to do with I want to say more of an airplane shape with because of the angle.
Yes, they initially proposed a standard two-sided monument sign, and it was actually at the recommendation of staff and the design commission that they consider an alternative configuration. So they did end up doing kind of a triangular sign because that was what was determined to be the most visible in that location. That was actually at the recommendation of staff and the design commission.
Okay.
That wasn't something that was initially proposed by the Park District.
Is there any concern with what I'm suggesting here that this may get this to come back to us later? Like, well, you gave those guys two signs on this corner. We want two signs now.
I do want to correct myself. It was pointed out to me that those two signs at Peyton Place and One Arlington have since been removed. They were temporary signage. So I do want to
Those two signs up the very top.
Yeah,
those were temporary signs.
They were
right?
temporary signs. So,
Okay,
so
during leasing in the beginning.
Disregard, yes.
Right.
I would defer to.
And perhaps legal counsel's better able to answer this question, but, variations are approved based on the merits and the specific circumstances for each variation, so they are not typically considered precedent setting.
Yeah.
That does not mean that a future petitioner might not come forward and say, you let them do it, we should get to do it too. But should a future petitioner make a similar request, we would have to evaluate that based on the merits in those specific circumstances.
I would, and while I think that's all very correct, I think that, again, when you give one variation, there is a sense of, well, we've seen this before, and I think we all know that given the interest that we have in mixed-use multifamily, particularly in this quarter, but potentially in other locations in town, I don't think it would be crazy to assume that we probably would get another request for this type of thing if it were granted.
Yeah. Okay. Do you agree?
I agree.
Okay. All right. Any other dialogue up here? Trustee Dunnington.
Could you also explain what would be on the building for the commercial tenants? Like right now it says market.
I think each of the retailers would get permitted separately with their own signage as of right, or as they would need to get that permitted as well. These are just placeholders for what retailers could be in. So, yeah.
Potentially how many different signs different retailers could there be?
In this space that we see on the front, probably just one. It's a large, potentially.
Yeah, right now, actually, we're working with an operator that would be like a market, coffee shop and grab and go market, and they would take all 10,000 square feet of that space. So that would be our choice. We don't really want to chop that one up. And
But
then there's kind of inline retail to the south, and then the other retail that's to the east by the other obelisk is also, I think, suited to be one user as far as how you get in and get out. So, did I make it more complicated, or did I answer your question?
In regard to Trustee Dunnington's question, would it be market and market, one facing west, one facing north on that corner space? So whatever the name of the place is, it would be duplicated?
Right. So you could get it obviously from Algonquin and from Arlington Heights. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we do have a motion and a second, right? Motion was made by trustee Schwingbeck and seconded by trustee Santamaria. Are there any members of the audience that wish to address the board or the petitioner on this particular project? Seeing none. Anyone else from the board up here with questions or comments? Trustee Zyck?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Actually, you know, when I first read this report, I was kind of like, my gut was kind of going against the whole thing. I was like, why do we need as many signs as we have over there? Changed my mind on the way home, because on the way home, I usually take 90 up to 53, but I got off on Arlington Heights Road there. Can you go back to the picture with 4 and 5? Okay, so that's, if I'm looking at that right, that's the exit coming off the highway, right, to the very right there.
On the right.
And I got thinking to myself about the precedence thing, Mayor, that you were talking, the precedent. I think I said that word wrong. Anyways, if this was coming up here, you know, asking for all this type of work, I would be against it. I would say, no, we can't do something like that. But this is supposed to be, we keep calling it the gateway. And those AH there, though, I am worried, hopefully they don't have to use their blinds to block out that light, okay? But it is a nice-looking project that you've got going on there, and I think it's a nice area, a nice way of being the gateway, and it says a lot to the community coming off there and seeing the AH. I went there and I drove all the way around it to, hopefully I didn't drive in an area I wasn't supposed to, but to kind of see what it looked like. And for that area, this looks good. Down here, forget it. I think we would all kind of say, no, we can't do something like that. But so I think that it's not really setting a precedent, because that is a really unique area. And I think they're doing a good job with what they're doing.
Thank you. And the scale too of the building, I mean, these don't really do it justice. You know, when you're, in even this view, you'd have to be standing in the middle of the intersection at Arlington Heights and Algonquin Road. That is such a giant intersection too, that you're, you know, back another 5-6 car lengths from this. So it's a lot of space, and so we appreciate the ability to do good signage.
And there's a lot going on down there too, right in that area too. So that's why it makes this a little bit more palatable.
Anyone else? Trustee Dunnington.
Thank you. Could staff talk a little bit about what signage might be involved in a new Arlington Heights gateway sign in this area? Or is that too far ahead?
You know, that is one of the things we're currently looking at, is some additional corridor enhancements in this area. We don't have a particular design yet for what some of that signage might look like, but we would try to blend it with the aesthetics of the corridor.
And it would be just south of this property, or?
Yet to be determined.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, I think a roll call vote is appropriate for this.
Trustee Schwingbeck?
Yes?
Trustee Santamaria?
Yes.
Trustee Bertucci?
Yes.
Trustee Zyck?
Yes.
Trustee Manganaro?
Aye.
Trustee Dunnington?
No.
Trustee Gilbert?
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz?
Yes.
President Tinaglia?
Yes. Congratulations, man. I think I'm really excited for you guys that this is a really fine project for where it is, as Trustee Zyck pointed out eloquently. So I think we're relying on you to make a great impression on all those who come from the south and enter our area here. My alarm is going off. And it looks great in the rendering, so congratulations. Go make it happen.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. I also want to thank Emily and her team, especially Steve Hatzinger, all the work that he's done working with Adrian on this project. So thank you.
Great to see you, Charles. See you.
Thanks.
All right. What's next on the agenda? It's the end of new business?
Yep.
So at this point, I'll hand it off to Manager Ecklos.
Thank you, Mayor. I would respectfully request that we enter into closed session for 5 ILCS 120/2C11 litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the village has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the board finds that an action is probable or imminent, and 5 ILCS 120/2C21, discussion of minutes lawfully closed, whether for purposes of the approval of the minutes or the semi-annual review of the minutes.
Very good. Can we have a motion saying so?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Zyck, second by trustee LaBedz. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay?
Mayor, I think
None?
this is a roll call vote.
What I meant to say, Maggie, would you please call roll? Thank you for correcting.
Trustee Zyck,
Yes.
trustee LaBedz,
Yes.
trustee Gilbert,
Yes.
trustee Bertucci,
Yes.
trustee Manganaro,
Aye.
trustee Schwingbeck,
Yes.
trustee Dunnington,
Yes.
trustee Santa Maria,
Yes.
President Tinaglia.
Yes. Okay, so we are going to not adjourn, but move into closed session, and we won't be reporting out. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Be safe and warm.